And back now here at the news desk. And does the order in which you were born into your family really make a difference in your future? In the book, The Family Dynamic, Susan Dominus, an award-winning New York Times journalist, weaves researched stories with science to explore the circumstances that set families apart. Let's welcome Susan now to the news desk. Susan, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a
You
pleasure to be
got it.
here.
So, Susan, what inspired you to write The Family Dynamic?
The Family Dynamic is a book about those families in which numerous siblings are very high achieving. And I just was one of those kids who was interested in those families. I grew up spending a lot of time when my parents traveled in other people's homes, and I was interested in the different family cultures. And I wondered what kinds of results they got depending on what was happening around the dinner table.
Hmm. Can you share some insights into the research process that you did for the book?
I would say it was almost more of a longitudinal study. I spent a lot of time getting to know six families that agreed to speak to me who had surprising numbers of very high achieving siblings. And what I ended up with were these really rich, intimate family narratives that I think are ultimately about as much the challenges of being high achieving and ambitious as they are about
Hmm.
the rewards.
What explains those rare families that boast multiple children who achieve extraordinary success?
Um, One of the common threads that I saw in all of these families was that they tended to have at least one parent who was him or herself an extraordinary overcomer, somebody who had,
Hmm.
maybe it was an immigrant or maybe it was somebody who grew up in Mississippi during Jim Crow and managed to get himself to high school, several states away. The parents themselves tended to be very inspiring. But also, there was this tremendous sense of optimism that I saw as a common thread in the families. They literally had family expressions like, with God's help, all things are possible. Or, the unspoken motto in another family they said was, all things possible. So I think that it's not that having an optimistic or family is necessarily going to make it guaranteed that you're going to achieve, but I think it's maybe it's what they say is necessary but not sufficient. I think it's a starting place.
Did you find any common parenting strategies among the families you profiled?
I would say the main thing that I observed is that, contrary to the way that so many parents parent today, is that none of these parents were overly involved in their kids' schooling or in whatever activity the kids were doing. They weren't emotionally enmeshed in their kids' passion so that the kids could really own it themselves. Diane Paulus is this world class female director who actually danced with the American Ballet Theater when she was very, very young. She said her own mother had a way of watching her dance without desire. And what she meant by that, her mom wanted to be there. That's not what she meant. What she meant was that her mother's own ego was not involved in how she performed. I think one really good strategy is to, rather than feeling responsible as a parent for like enforcing discipline in your kids, which never seems to end well or be
Hmm.
particularly effective, is to outsource that. Find a coach whom you really admire and who's really great at instilling discipline, or find a ballet instructor, or if you can't, send your kids to those kinds of classes, find a neighbor that you think would be a good mentor and have the kid go, rake leaves for him. So it's just a matter of outsourcing the discipline and making home a really safe place for kids. I think that's important.
How significant is the influence of siblings on each other's achievements in families that you studied?
Well, I generally feel that parental effects are overestimated by most people. Most people think that parenting has much more of an effect than it actually does on how kids turn out. And
Hmm.
I think that sibling effects are a little bit underappreciated. So, siblings, at their best, can really, because they are the same age and they're of the same era and they know each other in a way that parents don't necessarily know their own kids, they can be invaluable resources for advice and introductions and networking. And I also think that there's a way that siblings, just by performing at a certain level, we know that siblings, there's something called the sibling spillover effect. When kids do well in school, it tends to have an effect on how their siblings perform too. And there's research that parses this out. So we actually do know that it's a sibling effect rather than just genetics or something that the parents are doing at the top.
Do you find that siblings, I don't want to say outdo each other, but try to best each other. I have twin daughters that are 24 years old, and it seems like one is, oh, yeah, well, I did this, and I did this, and I'm going to get my degree, blah, blah, blah.
Are they fraternal twins or identical?
Identical.
Oh, interesting. So identical twins tend to be really much closer and more collaborative than fraternal twins. Identical twins are as much like one person as two people really can be. And so you see beautiful examples of like sacrifice with identical twins. And fraternal twins, I think there's a little bit more competition, but and also maybe more differentiation.
Hmm. So how did you select the families that you profiled in your book?
It was a little bit idiosyncratic. The families that I chose, I was interested not in writing about kids who came from upper middle class backgrounds, got good college educations, and then went on to like make a pile of money. Like that wasn't inspiring to me personally. The people I wanted to write about were people who had overcome hardship or who were trailblazers or who had done something that people did not think was possible or at least easy. You know, people who really believed in themselves, like artists, directors, novelists, or Olympic athletes. I was very curious about how does somebody foster that boldness, that culture of can do in their kids. And
Hmm.
also, these were the families that agreed to speak to me. Families are very private about family life. Seriously,
Yeah.
a lot of people, I think, were worried about some kind of family secret or tension coming out.
What lessons can other families learn from the stories in this book?
I think it's impossible to read these stories, which, you know, I hope read almost novelistically, like page turners, like you really care about these people. It's impossible to read their stories and just think, oh, this is what I want for my kids. I just want them to be the most successful kids they can be. I think what comes across is like there are things that are inspiring that parents can do and be, but at the same time, there are also costs to success and there are costs to ambition. And there's no such thing as a perfect family, and that's both the bad news and, in a way, it's also the good news.
Yeah. Where can we get the book, The Family Dynamic?
I hope you support your local bookseller, and if they don't carry it, ask for it there, but also you can purchase it at Amazon.com.
And what message do you hope readers take away from The Family Dynamic?
At the end of the day, what I feel is this the idea that is the healthiest and is that you want to let your kids believe that they can reach for the stars. You want to go, you know, reach for the moon. Like we're with you and you got this and don't let anyone stop you. But also if you don't want to reach for the moon, you want somebody else to reach for the moon, that's okay too. We love you for who you are and not for your achievements, quote unquote.
The Family Dynamics, Susan Dominus, thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck with the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You betcha. All right, it is now 10 in front of 2 o'clock. Quick break. We are back with a look at entertainment update next on KFYR Plus.